Hey guys, King of Charmander here to be your judge, your jury, and your analyst, and today I bring you Tentacruel with SCALD. Is it overrated or is it actually meta? Well, let's find out. So, Tentacruel got SCALD. What SCALD is a water type move. You might seen it on Poliwrath or Poliwhirl, and it has a 30% chance of debuffing. The thing about SCALD is that SCALD is definitely an upgrade to Tentacruel because Tentacruel used to have Hydro Pump. It takes so long to get to a Hydro Pump versus SCALD that it's really good that it got a nuke move that requires less energy and has the potential for debuffing. By all means, it's not super high, but you know it's an upgrade. And Tentacruel is a very iconic Generation 1 Pokemon. Some of y'all may not remember it, but if you watch the episode way back in the day where Tentacruel turned huge because of like literal toxic waste went to it and like evolved and got ginormous, it was like, it's like Godzilla. It was if you know exactly what I'm talking about, you are cool. And I appreciate you, and I'm glad you understand that reference. But yes, this is Tentacruel. So we're gonna find out, is it really great? We'll figure it out. I'm gonna see. This is my first time using Tentacruel on stream, and then I'm use shoutcast these battles. So yeah, let's give it a shot. But before we get started, this is going to be my therapist mental health tip of the day, and it's going to be about anxiety. And just like anxiety, if you don't want to hear about anxiety or anything like that, skip 2 minutes ahead or go down to chapters and you could skip straight to the battles. There's a reason why I put chapters in here, so you could literally just skip ahead. But what anxiety is a common feeling people have, but when it's happening on a chronic basis, it can impact a person's quality of life. The problem with anxiety is that unless you talk to a mental health professional, you might not understand your triggers or anything like that, or you might not really have a deep understanding of what really sets you off. Because yes, there's anxiety, but anxiety can branch off to a whole different number of things and a lot of different aspects. So yes, it's very good to understand it. And this is a good worksheet from PsychPoint that will show you and help you understand your anxiety or symptoms of anxiety. If you need a deeper one, then you need a psychotherapist. If you have some really serious ones like GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, or a specific anxiety, or even specific phobia, that could be a thing as well. So this is why a person with anxiety needs to be educated on what anxiety is and how it affects people. So it's a great guide for you to understand, and it might help you understand what anxiety you might have, or like, hey, what I can use to like put it out. If you think it's really that serious, go to your insurance, go see a mental health professional. Yes, but go ahead and take a look at the description below. As usual, I always put every source from whatever website I use. I put it on the website below, or the description below. And without further ado, this is going to be Tentacruel in Open Great League. You've probably seen a couple of videos on already. Is it good? Is it overrated? I don't know. We're about to find out. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here are the battles. So, is it overrated or is it meta? Or can you run through an entire line of fairies? This is what I mean by this. This is hilarious. Alright, so we got Wigglytuff here. Wigglytuff versus Tentacruel. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to straight Acid Spray. My opponent is staying win and I don't know why. I made a joke about maybe my opponent's running triple fairy. And I think I might have manifested that because if you look over here, you're going to see it, watch. There's an Azu after the Wigglytuff. And after the Azu, I'm like, what if you have an A9 in the back? I'm like, there's no way this is triple fairy. So literally, freaking Tentacruel is just going off. You know, Poison is not really one of my favorite typings. My favorite Pokemon is Charmander, for crying out loud. But like, you know what? Tentacruel is just absolutely going off right now. And it's looking like it's going to get us like a literal free dub. Just literally straight Poison, jabbing our opponent to Oblivion. I have Acid Spray here. I end up switching to Sludge Wave later. That's why you see Sludge Wave on the moveset versus Acid Spray. This one was just my test phase. So like Acid Spray is nice, but it only works in a fashion like this where you literally get triple fairy. And as you see here, I literally wipe out my opponent. Almost literally wipe out my opponent with freaking Tentacruel. I send in Trev just to literally fast out my opponent and make this super quick. You know what I mean? You gotta go fast. Not Sonic the Hedgehog fast. I'm really excited they're having a new video game, by the way. I'm a Sonic fan. Sonic was one of my favorite games when I played in the Sega, and it's my favorite thing when we get A9 onto a Tentacruel. For some odd reason, I'm I don't know why they're not switching out. I seriously don't know. Like, if you haven't Charm A9, you might want to switch out because this is a terrible... And they swap into Stunfisk. After losing a shield, you're going to swap into a Stunfisk, and I'm going to send in Trev. Trev resists Mud Shots. It also resists Earthquake. Earthquake does a good chunk, but Rock Slides are generally what you're going to use with Stunfisk. It's pretty simple. You lose the lead with Tentacruel, you say switch into Trevenant, and then hope Registeel closes out. If you see a Stunfisk, what you're gonna do, a Stunfisk lead, what you're gonna do is you're gonna have to Registeel into it, or what you can do is that you could go ahead and sack Tentacruel in the lead. The problem with Tentacruel versus G-Fisk is that one Earthquake will wipe you out, and you'll see what I mean by that later. Even though California has a ton of earthquakes. We literally do. And all you have to do is to check to see if there's an earthquake, is literally go on Twitter or go on social media and ask, see, like, was there an earthquake? And then we're just, like, unshaken by literally whatever magnitude it is because we're so used to earthquakes. They send back in A9. You're down to sheer, well, I have a bunch of energy on Trev. I should take this second shield. That's what I'm trying to say. And then my opponent fires energy. I should have fired Seed Bomb here. I would have caught them on CMP. That's perfectly fine. The reason why I want to do this is because I can send in Registeel or I can send in Tentacruel and I can farm down said Ninetales. All I have to do is Focus Blast this poor Swampert and then I should be able to send in Tentacruel. Or I can force this Swampert to throw all of its energy and just blast my They're probably going to Earthquake my Registeel to death. Earthquake my Registeel to death, or it gets near close to killing, then I can swap into Tentacruel and then I can go ahead and just Poison Jab down, or I can go ahead and fire Scald. Unfortunately, my opponent is going to fire Hydro Cannon. There's no way they get to another Earthquake just because they had to blow all their energy with the Earthquake, and then I am frantically trying to tap. And Go Battle Like decides to take my soul on this day. But it didn't really matter because there's no way Swampert gets to another move. There's no way Swampert gets to another Hydro Cannon before I farm them down anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, even Go Battle Like worked or not, I would have likely just poisoned down. Tentacruel has a high attack, so Poison Jabs, even though they're resisted, they'll do a decent amount of damage, especially since Swampert isn't super thick. For the next battle, you'll see me switch over to Sludge Wave for these types of battles. Someone in chat recommended that I go to Sludge Wave, and I did agree with that. Sludge Wave is definitely a good play, especially because Acid Spray only really works if you get that good matchup in the lead. And Sludge Wave actually does a good amount of nuke damage. So we have Tentacruel onto Golbat. Luckily, I'm able to call this Poison Fang. Poison resist poison. Ideally, I should switch out here, but the fact of the matter is that if you can pull Poison Fangs with Tentacruel, it's not a bad matchup. And I don't want to send Trevenant against Golbat just because it's going to take super effective damage from wing attacks. I also don't want to give up Registeel either because you give up Registeel, you lose your chance against Flyer. And then what they're going to do is they're just going to straight Poison Fang me to death, which is perfectly fine. The plan in here is to send in Trev, and then I want to get a little 2 extra Shadow Claws worth of farm. Now my opponent sends in a Venusaur, and my brain is like, wait, what? So I'm glad I actually didn't swap out. Had I swapped into Registeel, my opponent might have had a G-Fisk or something in the back. So we're just going to straight Shadow Ball. We're going to ball out, and unfortunately my opponent calls the bait. Calls the nuke, which is freaking fantastic on their end. Bad for us, great for them. What they're going to do is they're probably going to try to Frenzy Plant me because Frenzy Plant does a decent amount of chunk damage, and even though Sludge Bomb is neutral and they get stabbed, Frenzy Plant just hits so freaking hard that it's worth just throwing Frenzy Plant. Even if it's going to force the bait, it will put me in the red anyways. My opponent fires another move. At this point, I'm still going to shield. Doesn't really matter. I should be able to get to a Seed Bomb here, and then that should take out my opponent, and sure enough, they have a Swampert. Like I mentioned, had I swapped into Registeel, I would literally just have it aligning against Swampert, and then this would just be a hard loss. Sadly, Seed Bomb will literally nuke this Swampert to the Shadow Realm, and my opponent will never see the light of day. Yes, you can touch grass because you have a grass-type Pokemon, but unfortunately, you'll be touching grass, as in you're going to go 6 feet under because I'm going to take your money. Oh, dang, that sounds really bad. I mean, that's what they do in the Pokemon games. You literally black out, and half of your purse is gone. You get robbed after you lose all your mods. That's literally what happens in the main series games. For the next battle, we got Tentacruel onto Buzzwole. This is actually really great for you because you resist anything Buzzwole has to throw. And then my opponent sends in Emolga. So this is kind of terrible. The reason being is because Emolga has Air Lace. Even though Air Lace is literally one of the most terrible moves in the game, when it's super effective against something that's squishy like Trev, as you see, that does a lot of damage. I'm going to go straight Seed Bomb here because even though it's resisted, it still does a decent amount of damage. And I'm hoping I can take a shield like I do here. Now that I take one of his shield, I can go and shield comfortably, and then I can probably try to just go straight Seed Bomb. My opponent's going to fire Air Lace. I'm going to go for another Seed Bomb here. Pretend I have an Earthquake. If this goes through, I might be able to just farm down this Emolga. Seed Bomb goes through, and because Emolga isn't the thickest thing on Earth, we're going to be able to Shadow Claw down, and I might be able to get to another Seed Bomb, which is why you see me tapping frantically on Seed Bomb. So my opponent is either going to send in that Buzzwole, and they do. I fire the Seed Bomb, but my opponent already knows that this is resisted. Bugs resist Grass-type moves, and this won't do a ton of damage. Does about 20%, but yeah, it doesn't do a lot. But we resist everything Buzzwole has to throw at us right here, so I'm not going to shield anything. It is going to be a Lunge or a Superpower. Even if Superpower only do about 20%, if it's Lunge, even better, because as you see here, Lunge doesn't do a lot. And we get a Dedenne. So because they debuffed our attack, I'm actually going to swap out here. There's no reason for me to stay in. I try to do a little bit of Poison Jab damage, but like I start realizing like there's no reason for me to keep Tentacruel in. Because Tentacruel walls everything Buzzwole has to offer, there's no point in me giving up my Tentacruel to go against this Dedenne, especially since Dedenne's electric attacks are super effective against Tentacruel. Save Tentacruel and its health for Buzzwole, and then do the rest. That's generally what you want to do. You always want to do the safer play. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the guy that's telling you that Hyper Beam is everything to death, and literally Hyper Beam is way to rank 10 in Season 1, but you know what? Here's what it is. Our opponent has to blow their energy here unless they want to get Focus Blasted, and unfortunately, Focus Blast won't kill because Bugs resist fighting, but it'll get dang near close to killing it. So my opponent has to shield. And that's great because we should be able to just get to Scald, and then we should be able to live whatever our opponent has to offer here. This is probably a superpower. I fire the Scald, and I only have to charge it. This will take out our opponent, and that's GG's. Buzzwole is really strong. Unfortunately, with the new meta coming out, it kind of took a little bit of a hit. Renirgus is one of the newer mons to come out into the meta, as well as Tentacruel, the new move, so it's kind of rough to run Buzzwole now. Not saying it's not still good against certain matchups, but it's definitely not as great as it used to be, especially now your targets, Ready Steel and Wall Raid, are both nerfed, so it's not the greatest idea in the world. And now you're about to see what I mean by Tentacruel can't live a 6'9", 420 Earthquake. This is going to hurt. I'm like, I didn't know the counts to Scald, but then now I realize just a great mistake. So, how do we come back from a win condition despite the fact that we just lost a whole freaking Tentacle to Swampert? I send in Trev, I have to eat the Hydro Cannon. I don't really have a choice here. I still have 2 shields, I have a Registeel, but my only hope is that Registeel has a very strong matchup against their entire back row. That's literally my only way of winning this. I fire the Seed Bomb, they let it through, and I'm like, why not? Why? And I'm like, oh, it's an Araquanid. So, because this is an Araquanid here, I should be able to get the Shadow Ball, and I win Stab anyway. I mean, I win CMP anyways. This should ball out. I should literally do a ton of damage. Not a ton because this thing's tanky, or break a shield, which I do. I send in Registeel. My opponent's going to probably fire a Bubble Beam before you dip. That's generally what you want to do with debuff users. You want to debuff them, and then you want to switch out. But for some odd reason, my opponent is staying in, so I'm like, wait, what? So they're going to fire another one. This is probably going to be a Bubble Beam or a Bug Buzz. They're just trying to do as much chip damage as possible, and I'm just going to overcharge a little bit. The Zap Cannon won't kill because I'm -2, but it's still super effective, and even though it's not a guaranteed debuff now, the 100% guarantee went to 66%, it still hits a lot. The base damage of Zap Cannon is enormous, so because of that, we're literally about to zap our opponent death, especially because I would call it right. For some odd reason, our opponent is using a Seeking, which is a hell of a lot spicier than what I'm using right now. So we have to double shield here, though. I don't want to lose my Registeel to a Drill Run, and I'm going to swap in Trev. As you see here, my opponent blows their energy, which is actually great because I don't think I would have gone to another Seed Bomb. Plus, I forced my opponent to blow their energy. I should be able to get to a Zap Cannon, and because of that, Araquanid is still really weak in the back. So this should one-shot the Seeking here. And then Araquanid, it has a really terrible matchup against Registeel, especially since I was able to clear all those debuffs from before. I send in Registeel. My opponent's likely going to top left to save us time because of the fact they already know it's already over. Despite the fact that I lost an entire Tentacruel in the lead, we were still able to come back with a dub. And that's GG's. For the final battle, we got John Hankey's alt account. It just has Johnny. And we actually lose the lead. This is a terrible lead for you because poison is resisted by steel. Double resisted. As you see here, it's freaking... I ain't doing any damage. My job here is to fire a Scald and hopefully I get the debuff. I can't swap out here, or rather there's no point. because I have Trevenant in the back. And I have Registeel. Yeah, I could probably give up Registeel, but if I give up Registeel, there's no point. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do as much damage against the Skarmory as possible or take as many shields. I'm just going to try to sack Tentacruel at this rate. Maybe I get lucky and they let go of my Scald so I can go ahead and Poison Fang down, or Poison Jab down. We're going to hit this next Scald. Maybe we'll grab a shield. If we don't grab a shield, it's going to be terrible. If we do, that'll be great. And for some odd reason, I get no debuff, so I have to swap into Registeel. Luckily, we get a Serperior, and I'm like, a rare Serperior? I'm going to go straight Focus Blast here. We could have go Zap Cannon because Zap Cannon is not a guaranteed debuff. It's not worth it. Now that Zap Cannon is nerfed, and it does, again, like I mentioned, it's because it doesn't give it a guaranteed debuff, you might as well go straight Focus Blast. Plus, Zap Cannon is resistant, so... Leaf Tornado goes off, I call my opponent's bluff, and they don't debuff me. Except, you know what? Lightning doesn't strike twice. And in this case, Lightning strikes twice. The Tornado goes off, and I get debuffed. I am not pleased at all. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to summon the Spirit Bomb from Hell. I'm going to absolutely obliterate your stupid little grass snake. I watched Dragon Ball Super, by the way. Dragon Ball Superhero was freaking amazing. It was an amazing movie. I watched it. It was really good. I'm so glad Gohan finally got the respect he deserved. And the cameo and the freaking... After so long of being like a third row party to freaking Goku and Vegeta, he's getting... Gohan's finally got the respect he deserves. And because Serperior is so freaking buff, I'm not able to take out that poor freaking... I'm literally not able to kill it. I'm going to fire the Scald though. Luckily I'm able to get a Scar before they're able to farm me down. And that should KO this Skarmory. And then we get an Azu. So that's GG's. My opponent should top left as soon as see the Azu. And then that's game. I hope y'all enjoyed the battles. And that's game. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Tentacruel is good, but... it's really not as great as I thought it would be. The problem with Tentacruel is... It's basically a water version of Nidoqueen. And Nidoqueen beats Tentacruel because one Earth power will wipe you from the face of the Earth. The problem with Scald is it takes a little long to get there. If you saw when I had that Swampert matchup, you literally get to one Scald the same time Swampert gets to Earthquake, which is terrible. So just because of the energy generation, unfortunately, it's not great. Yeah, I'll do well in matchups where you resist like Fire, Charm, and whatnot, but other than that, Tentacruel doesn't really have... It's not really super great. It's fun, but it's not super great. You know what I mean? There are better poison types out there rather than Tentacruel. But in specialized cups, like where Tentacruel shines, like the Halloween Cup, like Tentacruel's really popular in the Halloween Cup. It's gonna do good in the Halloween Cup. That's one thing I can predict. However, unfortunately, Tentacruel it's not the greatest thing in the world. Especially if Scald was 100% debuff instead of a chance debuff, because Scald has a 30% chance of debuffing you. It's not 100% like Zap Cannon used to be. So because of that, ironically, Zap Cannon has a higher debuff rate at 66% than 30%. Why didn't you just make it like 69%? No, seriously. To make it like a living meme, just make it 69%. You know what I mean? Come on, Niantic. Have a little fun. Well, Niantic has a lot of fun counting money. They don't have a lot of fun working on their game because they have no idea what's going on. But despite that, no, Tentacruel was fun. It was fun. It was fun. Am I going to use it consistently? Probably not. Is it the greatest thing in the meta since the new moves came out? Probably not. It's definitely just something you kind of want to have fun with. Unless it's your favorite mod. Other than that, you're really hyped that Tentacruel got a Scald because of the moveset changes. And it's good. It's okay. But do me a huge favor, please like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. I really do appreciate it. I also stream on Friday through Monday. Been trying to be more consistent these days so that I basically want to just give back to my viewers, and streaming actually helps me practice in therapy, because as a therapist, I have to be very articulate with my delivery of words and very precise with what I say to my client, because what we say might set them off. So being really articulate and selective with my wording, this actually helps me out with me being a therapist. So being in my hits, it helps hand in hand. And with hand in hand, as usual, I wish you the best of luck in your Go Battle sets. I hope you're having fun in Season 12, and I will see y'all on the next video.
Just that I need, all the things that I have craved. These are what I could have seen.